Welcome dear student. Today we starts with the endocrine system. Aim for today's practical is to study the endocrine system using specimen, models, etc.
Now the requirements of endocrine system, which are the specimen, charts and the model. The nervous system and endocrine system act together to coordinate function of all body system. Recall that the nervous system acts through the nerve impulses or the action potential conducted along axons of neurons. At synapses, nerve impulses trigger the release of mediator or the messenger molecules, which is called as the neurotransmitter. The endocrine system also controls the body activities by releasing mediators, and this releasing mediator is called as the hormones. But the means of control of the two systems are very different. A hormone is a mediator molecule that is released in one part of the body but regulates the activity of cells in other parts of the body. Most hormones enter interstitial fluid and then the bloodstream. The circulating blood delivers hormones to cells throughout the body. Both the neurotransmitter and hormones exert their effects by binding to the receptor on or in their target cells. Several mediators act as both the neurotransmitter and the hormones. For example, is the norepinephrine, which is released as a neurotransmitter by sympathetic postganglionic neurons and as in hormones by chromatin cells of the adrenal medulla. Responses of the endocrine system often are slower than response of the nervous system. Although some hormones act within seconds, most take several minutes and more to cause a response. The effects of nervous system activation are generally briefer than those of the endocrine system. The nervous system acts on specific muscles and the gland. In other, the endocrine system which act on all the types of the body cells. Now see the comparison of nervous and endocrine system. Mediator molecules in the nervous system, neurotransmitter released locally in response to nerve impulses, while in endocrine system, hormones delivered to tissue throughout the body by blood. Site of mediator action. In nervous system, close to site of release at synapse, bind to receptor in postsynaptic membrane. In endocrine system, far from site of release, bind to receptor on or in target cell. Next one is target of types of target cells in nervous system, muscle cells, that is the smooth, cardiac and skeletal muscle, gland cells and other neurons, and in endocrine cells, cells throughout the body. Time to onset of action in nervous system typically within milliseconds and in endocrine system second to hours or the days. Duration of action in nervous system generally the briefer or the millisecond and in endocrine system generally the longer, it means the seconds to the days. Now next one is the definition of hormones. Hormones is a chemical substances by the cells into the extracellular fluid. They regulate the metabolic function of other cells. Have a lag times ranging from seconds to hours. Tend to have prolonged effect. The hormones is produced by the endocrine system and gives the slower action, while as the nervous system produces the nerve impulses and gives the fast action. These both are the nervous system and endocrine system correlate with each other. Now next is classification of hormones. First one is the amino acid base. Most hormones belongs to this class include the amines, thyroxine, peptide and protein hormones. Second one is steroids, gonad and adrenocortical hormones. Third one is eicosanoids, leukotrienes and prostaglandin. Next, chemical classes of hormones. Chemically, hormones can be divided into two broad classes, those that are soluble in lipid and those that are soluble in water. This chemical classification is also useful functionally because the two classes exert their effect differently. First one is the lipid soluble hormones. The lipid soluble hormones include the steroid hormones, thyroid hormones, and nitric oxide. First one is the steroid hormones. These steroid hormones are derived from cholesterol. Each steroid hormone is unique due to presence of different chemical groups attached at various sites on the four rings at the core of its structure. These are the steroid hormones and the core structure is same but the attached the chemical groups are the different. These small differences allow for a large diversity of function. Next one is the thyroid hormones. The two thyroid hormones is the T3 and the T4. They are synthesized by attaching iodine to the amino acid which is a tyrosine. See, these are the thyroid gland. This thyroid gland produces the T3. It means the three iodine atoms attached to the amino acid tyrosine. See in structure. Again, this thyroid gland produces the T4. It means the four iodine atom attached to the tyrosine. The presence of two benzene rings within a T3 or T4 molecule makes these molecules very lipid soluble. Third one is the gas of nitric oxide. They act as both the hormones and the neurotransmitter. Hormones in a endocrine system and neurotransmitter in a nervous system. Now in this the diagram, the neurotransmitter, they contains the presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic neuron. In the presynaptic neuron, there is the synthesis of a neurotransmitter and this synthesized neurotransmitter gets stored in the synaptic vesicle. When the action potential gets generated, this synaptic vesicle get ruptured and ruptures the neurotransmitter get released into the synaptic vesicle and they are bind to the receptor and this receptor is present on the postsynaptic membrane. Its synthesis is catalyzed by the enzyme which is a nitric oxide synthesis. Second one is the water soluble hormones. The water soluble hormones includes the amine hormones, peptide and protein hormones and eicosanoids hormones. First one is the amine hormones. They are synthesizing by decarboxylating and otherwise modifying certain amino acids. They are called as amines because they retain an amino group. The catecholamine, which includes the epinephrine, non-epinephrine and dopamine, are synthesized by modifying the amino acid tyrosine. Histamine is synthesized from the amino acid histidine by mast cells and the platelets. Serotonin and melatonin are derived from tryptophan. Second one is the peptide hormones and protein hormones. The peptide and protein hormones are amino acid polymerase. The smaller peptide hormones consist of chain of 3 to 49 amino acid. The larger protein hormones include the 50 to 200 amino acid. For example of peptide hormones are antidiuretic hormones and the oxytocin. And protein hormones include the human growth hormones and the insulin. Several of the protein hormones, such as the thyroid stimulating hormones, have attached the carbohydrate groups and thus are glycoprotein hormones. Third one is the eicosanoid hormones. These eicosanoid hormones are derived from arachidonic acid, which is a 20-carbon fatty acid. The two major types of eicosanoids are prostaglandin and the leukotrienes. The eicosanoids are important local hormones and they may act as a circulating hormones as well. Now the next is mechanism of hormones action, and this question is asked for the 5 or 10 marks. The response to a hormone depend on both the hormones itself and the target cell. Various target cells respond differently to the same hormones. Insulin, for example, which stimulates the synthesis of glycogen in liver cell and synthesis of triglyceride in adipose tissue. Hormones produce one or more of the following cellular changes. First one is alter the plasma membrane permeability, stimulate the protein synthesis. Now see, these ribosomes are responsible for the production of new protein. Activate or deactivate enzyme system, induce a secretory activity and stimulate the mitosis. Mitosis, it means the formation of the two new daughter cells. Question: how lipid soluble hormones work? Let's start how the lipid soluble hormones work. Action of lipid soluble hormones. Lipid soluble hormones include a steroid, thyroid hormones bind to receptor within a target cells. Their mechanism of action is as follows. First one is a free lipid soluble hormone molecule diffuse from the blood through the interstitial fluid and through the lipid bilayer of the plasma membrane into a cell. Next, if the cell is target cell, the hormone bind to and activate the receptor located within the cytosol or nucleus. The activated receptor hormone complex that alters the gene expression, it turns specific gene of the nuclear DNA on or off. As the DNA is transcribed, new messenger RNA forms and leave the nucleus enters in the cytosol. There is direct synthesis of a new protein, often an enzyme on the ribosomes. A new protein alters the cell activity and causes the response typical of that hormones. These are the mechanism of action of the lipid soluble hormones. Now see in the diagram. These are the blood capillaries. They are the free hormones, target cell, cytosol and the nucleus. Now the first step. The lipid soluble hormones diffuse into the cell and these diffuse hormones get bind to the receptor. After the binding the receptor get activated. Activated receptor hormone complex alters the gene expression. It means the the DNA get converted into the messenger RNA. And this messenger RNA leaves the nucleus and binds to a ribosome. And this ribosome forms the new protein, and this new protein alter the cell activity. These are total process of the lipid soluble hormones. Now the next question, how lipid soluble hormones get work? Let's start with this. Action of water soluble hormones. Because amine, peptide, protein and eicosanoid hormones are not lipid soluble, they can't diffuse through the lipid bilayer of the plasma membrane and bind to receptor inside the target cell. Instead, water soluble hormones bind to receptor that protrude from the target cell surface. The receptor are integral transmembrane protein in the plasma membrane. When a water soluble hormone binds to its receptor at the outer surface of the plasma membrane, then it is act as a first messenger. The first messenger is the hormone that causes the production of a second messenger inside the cell where the specific hormone stimulate the response takes place. One common second messenger is cyclic AMP. The neurotransmitters, neuropeptides and several sensory transduction mechanisms also act via second messenger system. The action of typical water soluble hormones. C. A water soluble hormones, which is a first messenger, diffuse from the blood through the interstitial fluid and then binds to its receptor at the exterior surface of a target cell plasma membrane. After the binding of the hormones to a receptor, they form the hormone receptor complex and activate a membrane protein which is called as the G protein. The activated G protein in turn activate the adenylate cyclase. And this activated adenylate cyclase converts the ATP into the cyclic AMP. Because the enzyme activate site is on the inner surface of the plasma membrane, this reaction occurs in the cytosol of the cell. The cyclic AMP, which is a second messenger, activate one or more protein kinase which may be free in the cytosol or bound to the plasma membrane. A protein kinase is an enzyme that phosphorylates, it means the addition of a phosphate group or the cellular protein such as an enzyme. The donor of the phosphate group is ATP, which is converted to ADP. Activated protein kinase phosphorylate one or more cellular protein. Phosphorylation activates some of these proteins and inactivates others, rather like turning a switch on or off. Phosphorylated proteins in turn cause a reaction that produces physiological response. Different protein kinases exist within different target cells and within different organelles of the same target cell. After a brief period, an enzyme called the phosphodiesterase inactivates the cyclic AMP. The cell response is turned off unless the new hormone molecules continue to bind to their receptor in the plasma membrane and the cycle gets repeated. Now see, these are the blood capillaries, these are the water soluble hormones, these are the target cells. Now these water soluble hormones gives bind to the receptor or these hormones is the first messenger, and this binding of the receptor form the hormone receptor complex and they activate the surface protein which is a G protein, and this activated G protein activate the adenylase cyclase, and this adenylase cyclase convert the ATP into the cyclic AMP, and this cyclic AMP, which is the second messenger, activate the protein kinase. And this activated protein kinase phosphorylate the cellular protein. It means the protein get converted into the protein phosphate in the presence of the ATP. And this ATP get converted into the ADP. And last, this phosphorylated protein produces the physiological response. And this phosphodiesterase inactivate the cyclic AMP. These are the total mechanism of the lipid soluble, water soluble hormone. Dear student, let's start with the part second, which is the endocrine glands. The endocrine glands include the pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal and the pineal gland. In addition, several organs and tissues are not exclusively classified as endocrine glands but contain cells that secrete the hormone. These include the hypothalamus, thymus, pancreas, ovaries, testes, kidney, stomach, liver, small intestine, skin, heart, adipose tissue and the placenta. Taken together, all endocrine glands and hormone secreting cells constitute the endocrine system. Now see in the diagram. Pituitary gland, hypothalamus, pineal gland, next is the thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenal gland and the gonads. Thymus, pancreas. Now the first one is the starting from the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland or the hypophysis was also called as the master endocrine gland because it secretes the several hormones that control other endocrine glands. We know that the pituitary gland itself has a master, hypothalamus. This small region of the brain below the thalamus is the major link between the nervous and the endocrine system. Cells in the hypothalamus synthesize at least 9 different hormones and the pituitary gland secrete the 7. Together these hormones play important roles in the regulation of virtually all aspects of growth, development, metabolism and the homeostasis. The pituitary gland is a pea-shaped structure that measures 1 to 1.5 cm in diameter and lies in the hypophyseal fossa of the silica turricea of the sphenoid bone. It attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk, the infundibulum, and has two anatomically and functionally separate portions, the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary or the anterior lobe, which is also called as the adenohypophysis, which accounts for an about 75% of the total weight of the gland and is composed of the epithelial tissue. The anterior pituitary consists of the two parts in the adults. The pars distalis is the larger portion and the pars tuberalis forms a sheath around the infundibulum. The posterior pituitary or the posterior lobe, which is also called as the neurohypophysis and is composed of the neural tissue. It also consists of two parts. First one is the pars nervosa, the larger bulbar portion and the infundibulum. The third region of the pituitary gland called as the pars intermedia atrophies during human fetal development and to exist as a separate lobe in adults. Now see in diagram, pituitary gland, next is the hypothalamus, and this pituitary gland get divided into the two parts, anterior pituitary and next one is the posterior pituitary. Next is the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary or the adenohypophysis secrete the hormones that regulates a wide range of bodily activities from growth to the reproduction. Release of the anterior pituitary hormone is stimulated by releasing hormones and suppressed by the inhibiting hormones from the hypothalamus. Thus, the hypothalamic hormones are an important link between the nervous and the endocrine system. Now, the next one is the types of anterior pituitary cells and their hormones. The 5 types of the anterior pituitary cells. First one is the somatotropes, thyrotropes, gonadotropes, lactotropes and the corticotropes, and they secrete these 7 hormones. Now first one is the somatotropes. These somatotropes secrete the human growth hormones or the HGH, which is also known as the somatotropin. Human growth hormone in turn stimulates several tissues to secrete the insulin-like growth factors or the IGF. Hormones that stimulate general body growth and regulate aspect of the metabolism. Second one is the thyrotropes. They secrete the thyroid stimulating hormones, which is also called as the thyrotropin. This thyroid stimulating hormone control the secretion and other activities of the thyroid gland. Third one is the gonadotropes. It secrete the 2 gonadotropins. First one is the follicle stimulating hormones and the second one is the luteinizing hormones. Both the follicle stimulating hormones and the luteinizing hormone act on the gonads. They stimulate secretion of estrogen and the progesterone and the maturation of oocyte in the ovaries. And they stimulate the sperm production and secretion of the testosterone in the testes. Fourth one is the lactotropes. They secrete the prolactin which initiate milk production in the mammary gland. Fifth one is the corticotropes. The corticotropes secrete the adenocorticotropic hormones, also known as the corticotropin. We stimulate the adrenal cortex to secrete the glucocorticoids such as the cortisol. Some corticotropes remains of the pairs intermedia also secrete the melanocyte stimulating hormones. Now first one is the human growth hormone and the insulin-like growth factor. The somatotropes are the most numerous cells in the anterior pituitary and the human growth hormone is the most plentiful anterior pituitary hormone. The main function of human growth hormone is to promote synthesis and secretion of small protein hormones which is called as the insulin-like growth factor or the somatomedians. In response to human growth hormones, cell in the liver, skeletal muscles, cartilage, bones and other tissues secrete the insulin-like growth factor which may either enter the bloodstream from the liver or act locally in other tissue as a autocrine and the paracrine. Now the next one is the function of the insulin-like growth factors. The insulin-like growth factor causes the cells to grow and multiply by increasing uptake of amino acid into cells and accelerating protein synthesis. Insulin-like growth factor also decreases the breakdown of protein and the use of amino acid for ATP production. Due to this effect of the insulin-like growth factor, human growth hormone increases the growth rate of the skeletal muscle and the skeleton during the childhood and the teenage years. In adults, human growth hormones and the insulin-like growth factor helps to maintain the mass of muscles and bone and again promote the healing of injury and the tissue repair. The insulin-like growth factor also enhances lipolysis in adipose tissue which results in increased use of the released fatty acid for ATP production by the body cells. In addition to affecting protein and lipid metabolism, human growth hormone and the insulin-like growth factor influence the carbohydrate metabolism by decreasing the glucose uptake, which decreases the use of the glucose for ATP production by the most of the body cells. The insulin-like growth hormone and the human growth hormone may also stimulate liver cells to release the glucose into the blood. These somatotropes in the anterior pituitary release bursts of human growth hormone every few hours, especially during the sleep. Their secretory activity is controlled mainly by the two hypothalamic hormones. The first one is the growth hormone releasing hormone. Second one is the growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Growth hormone releasing hormone promote the secretion of human growth hormone, and the growth hormone inhibiting hormone suppress it. A major regulator of growth hormone releasing hormone and the growth hormone inhibiting hormone secretion is the blood glucose level. Second one is the thyroid stimulating hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone or the TSH stimulate the synthesis and secretion of the two thyroid hormones. Triiodothyronine, it means the T3, and the thyroxine, which is the T4, both produced by the thyroid gland. The thyroid releasing hormone from the hypothalamus control the thyroid stimulating secretion. Release of thyroid releasing hormone in turn depends on blood level of T3 and the T4. High level of the T3 and T4 inhibit the secretion of thyrotropin releasing hormone via the negative feedback. There is no thyrotropin inhibiting hormones. Next one is follicle stimulating hormones. In females, the ovaries are the target for follicle stimulating hormones. Each month, follicle stimulating hormones initiate the development of several ovarian follicles, sac-like arrangements of secretory cells that surround a developing oocyte. This follicle stimulating hormone also stimulates follicular cells to secrete the estrogen, and this estrogen is the female sex hormone. In male, follicle stimulating hormone stimulate the sperm production in the testes. Gonadotropin releasing hormones from the hypothalamus stimulate the follicle stimulating hormone. Release of gonadotropin releasing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormones is suppressed by estrogen in female and by testosterone in males through the negative feedback system. And this testosterone is the principal male sex hormone. There is no gonadotropin inhibiting hormones. Fourth one is the luteinizing hormone. In female, luteinizing hormone triggers the ovulation, the release of a secondary oocyte by an ovary. The luteinizing hormone stimulates the formation of corpus luteum in the ovary and the secretion of the progesterone by the corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is the structure formed after the ovulation, and the progesterone is the another female sex hormone. Together, this follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone also stimulate the secretion of estrogen by ovarian cells. The estrogen and the progesterone prepare the uterus for implantation of a fertilized ovum and help prepare the mammary gland for the milk secretion. In males, the luteinizing hormone stimulates cells in the testes to secrete the testosterone. Secretion of luteinizing hormones, like that of the follicle stimulating hormones, it is controlled by the gonadotropin releasing hormones. Fifth one is the prolactin. The prolactin together with other hormones initiate and maintain the milk production by the mammary gland. Only after the mammary gland have been primed by the estrogen, progesterone, glucocorticoids, human growth hormone, thyroxine, and insulin, which exert permissive effect, does the prolactin bring about milk production. Ejection of milk from the mammary gland depends on the hormone oxytocin, which is released from the posterior pituitary. Together, the milk production and the ejection constitute a lactation. The hypothalamus secretes both the inhibitory as well as the excitatory hormones that regulate the prolactin secretion. In females, prolactin inhibiting hormones, which is dopamine, inhibit the release of prolactin from the anterior pituitary most of the time. The function of prolactin is not known in males, but its hypersecretion causes the erectile dysfunction. In females, hypersecretion of prolactin causes the galactorrhea, it means the inappropriate lactation, and again causes the amenorrhea, it means the absence of the menstrual cycle. Sixth one is the adrenocorticotropic hormones. Corticotropes secrete the mainly adrenocorticotropic hormones or the ACTH. The adrenocorticotropic hormones control the production and secretion of the cortisol and other glucocorticoids by the cortex of the adrenal medulla. Corticotropin releasing hormones from the hypothalamus stimulate the secretion of adrenocorticotropic hormones by the corticotropes. Stress-related stimuli such as a low blood pressure or a physical trauma and interleukin-1, a substance produced by macrophages, also stimulate release of the adrenocorticotropic hormones. Glucocorticoid inhibit the corticotropin releasing hormone and the adrenocorticotropic hormone released via the negative feedback. Seventh one is the melanocyte stimulating hormone. Melanocyte stimulating hormone increase skin pigmentation in amphibians by stimulating the dispersion of melanin granules in the melanocytes. Now next one is the posterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary or the neurohypophysis does not synthesize hormones, it does store and release the two hormones. It consists of axon and axon terminals more than the 10,000 hypothalamic neurosecretory cells. The cell bodies of the neurosecretory cells are in the paraventricular and the supraoptic nuclei of the hypothalamus. Their axon form the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. The neuronal cell bodies of both the paraventricular and the supraoptic nuclei synthesize the hormones which is the oxytocin and the antidiuretic hormones which is also called as the vasopressin. Now the first one is the oxytocin. During and after delivery of a baby, oxytocin affects two target tissues, the mother's uterus and the breast. During delivery, stretching of the cervix of the uterus stimulates the release of the oxytocin, which in turn enhances the contraction of smooth muscle cells in the wall of the uterus after delivery. It simulates milk ejection from the mammary gland in response to the mechanical stimulus provided by a suckling infant. Second one is the antidiuretic hormone. As its name implies, an antidiuretic is a substance that decreases the urine production. The antidiuretic hormone causes the kidney to return more water to the blood. That's why decreasing the urine volume. In the absence of the antidiuretic hormone, urine output increases more than the tenfold, from the normal 1 to 2 liters to the about 20 liters per day. Drinking alcohol often causes the frequent urination because alcohol inhibits the secretion of the antidiuretic hormone. The antidiuretic hormones also decreases the water loss through the sweating and cause the constriction of arterioles which increase the blood pressure. These hormones other name is the vasopressin, reflects their effect on the blood pressure. The amount of antidiuretic hormones secreted varies with the blood osmotic pressure and the blood volume. Now the high volume of osmotic pressure due to dehydration or a decline in blood volume because of the hemorrhage, diarrhea or excessive sweating stimulate the osmoreceptor neurons in the hypothalamus that monitor the blood osmotic pressure. Next is elevated blood osmotic pressure activate the osmoreceptor directly. They also receive excitatory input from other brain areas when blood volume decreases. Osmoreceptors activate the hypothalamic neurosecretory cells that synthesize and release the antidiuretic hormones. When neurosecretory cells receive the excitatory input from the osmoreceptors, they generate nerve impulses that cause the exocytosis of antidiuretic hormones containing the vesicles from their axon terminals in the posterior pituitary. This liberates antidiuretic hormones which diffuses into the blood capillaries of the posterior pituitary. The blood carries the antidiuretic hormone to three target tissues. First one is the kidney, second one is the sudoriferous or the sweat gland, and third one is the smooth muscles in blood vessels wall. The kidney respond by retaining more water which decreases the urine output. The secretory activity of said gland decreases which lowers the rate of water loss by the perception from the skin. Smooth muscles in the wall of the arterioles contract in response to high level of antidiuretic hormone which constricts the lumen of these blood vessels and increase the blood pressure. Low osmotic pressure of blood inhibit the osmoreceptors. Inhibition of osmoreceptor reduces or stops antidiuretic hormone secretion. The kidney then retain the less water by forming a large volume of urine. Secretory activity of sweat gland increases and the arterioles get dilated. The blood volume and osmotic pressure of body fluid return to the normal. Now next one is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, which is a butterfly shape, is located just inferior to the larynx, which is the voice box. It is composed of right and left lateral row, one on either side of the trachea, that are connected. It is composed of right and left lateral lobe, one on either side of trachea that are connected by an isthmus anterior to the trachea. About 50% of thyroid gland have a small third lobe which is called as the pyramidal lobe. It extends superiorly from the isthmus. The normal mass of thyroid is about 30 grams. Microscopic spherical sac called the thyroid follicle make up most of the thyroid gland. The wall of each follicle consists primarily of cells called as the follicular cell, most of which extend to the lumen of the follicle. The basement membrane surrounds each the follicle. Now see in the diagram. The thyroid gland is located in between the larynx and the trachea. And they are divided into the two lobes, right and the left lobe. The follicular cell produces the two hormones, thyroxine, which is also called as the tetraiodothyronine. It means the T4 because it contains the 4 atoms of iodine, and triiodothyronine, which is the T3, which contains the 3 atoms of iodine. T3 and T4 together are also known as the thyroid hormones. A few cells called the parafollicular cells or the C cells lie in between the follicles. They produce the hormone calcitonin, which helps to regulate the calcium homeostasis. Now next one is the formation, storage and release of the thyroid hormones. The thyroid gland is the only endocrine gland that stores its secretory product in large quantity, normally about 100-day supply. Now the synthesis and the secretion of T3 and the T4. First one is the iodide trapping. Thyroid follicle cells trap the iodide ions by actively transporting them from the blood into the cytosol. As a result, the thyroid gland normally contains most of the iodide in the body. Second one is the synthesis of the thyroglobulin. While the follicular cells are trapping iodide, they are also synthesizing thyroglobulin, a large glycoprotein that is produced in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, modified in the Golgi complex and packed into the secretory vesicles. The vesicles then undergoes the exocytosis which releases the thyroglobulin into the lumen of the follicle. Third one is the oxidation of iodide. Some of the amino acid in the thyroglobulin are tyrosine that will become iodinated. However, negatively charged iodide ions cannot bind to tyrosine until they undergoes the oxidation to iodine. Now see in the reaction. These are the iodide ions. Iodide ion goes to the oxidation and forms the iodine. In the oxidation, it means the removal of the one electron. As the iodide ions are being oxidized, they pass through the membrane into a lumen of the follicle. Fourth one is the iodination of tyrosine. As iodine molecule form, they react with the tyrosine that are part of the thyroglobulin molecules. Binding of one iodine atom yields the monoiodotyrosine and a second iodination product which is the diiodotyrosine. The thyroglobulin with attach the iodine atoms, a sticky material that accumulates and is stored in the lumen of the thyroid follicle which is termed as the colloid. Fifth one is the coupling of T1 and T2. During the last step in the synthesis of thyroid hormone, two thyroid hormone or the molecule join to form the T4 or one T1 and one T2 join to form the T3. Sixth one is the pinocytosis and the digestion of colloid. Droplets of colloid re-enter follicular cell by pinocytosis and merge with the lysosomes. This digestive enzyme in the lysosome break down the thyroglobulin, cleaning off molecule of the T3 and the T4. Seventh one is the secretion of thyroid hormones. Because the T3 and T4 are lipid soluble, they diffuse through the plasma membrane into interstitial fluid and then into the blood. The T4 normally is secreted in greater quantity than the T3, but T3 is several times more potent. Moreover, after the T4 enters the body cell, most of this is converted into the T3 by removal of the one iodine. Eighth one is the transport in the blood. More than 99% of both the T3 and T4 combine with transport proteins in the blood, mainly thyroxine binding globulin. Now see the diagram. Next one is the calcitonin. The hormone produced by the parafollicular cell of the thyroid gland is a calcitonin. This calcitonin can decrease the level of calcium in blood by inhibiting the action of osteoclast, the cells that break down the bone extracellular matrix. Next one is the parathyroid gland. Partially embedded in the posterior surface of the lateral lobes of the thyroid gland are the several small rounded mass of tissue which is called as the parathyroid gland. Each has a mass of about 40 mg. Usually one superior and one inferior parathyroid gland are attached to each lateral thyroid lobe for a total of 4. Microscopically, the parathyroid glands contain two kinds of epithelial cells. The more numerous cells, called as the chief or the principal cell, produce the parathyroid hormones, also called as the parathormone. The function of the other kind of cell, called as the oxyphil cell, is not known in a normal parathyroid gland. Next one is the parathyroid hormone. The parathyroid hormone is the major regulator of the level of calcium, magnesium and the phosphate ions in the blood. The specific action of parathyroid hormone is to increase the number and activity of the osteoclast. The result is elevated bone reabsorption, which release the ionic calcium and phosphate into the blood. The parathyroid hormones also acts on the kidney. Firstly, it slows the rate at which calcium and magnesium are lost from blood into the urine. Second, it increases the loss of the phosphate from the blood into the urine. Because more phosphate is lost in the urine than in gain from the bones. The parathyroid hormones decrease the blood phosphate level and increase the blood calcium and magnesium level. The third effect of parathyroid hormone on the kidney is to promote the formation of the hormone calcitriol, the active form of the vitamin D. The calcitriol, also known as the 1,2,5-dihydroxy vitamin D3, which increase the rate of calcium, phosphate and magnesium absorption from the gastrointestinal tract into the blood. Next one is the adrenal gland. The paradrenal gland or the supraadrenal gland, one of which lies superior to each kidney in the retroperitoneal space, have a flattened pyramidal shape. In an adult, each adrenal gland is 3 to 5 cm in height, 2 to 3 cm in width, and a little less than 1 cm thick, with a mass of 3.5 to 5 gram, only half its size at a birth. During embryonic development, the adrenal gland differentiate into two structural and functionally distinct regions. A large peripheral located the adrenal cortex, comprising 80 to 90% of the gland, and the small central located adrenal medulla. A connective tissue capsule covers the gland. The adrenal gland, like the thyroid gland, are highly vascularized. The adrenal cortex produces the steroid hormones that are essential for life. Complete loss of the adrenocortical hormones leads to death due to the dehydration and electrolyte imbalance in a few days, 2 weeks, unless hormone replacement therapy be promoted. The adrenal medulla produces the 3 catecholamine hormones, which is a norepinephrine, epinephrine, and small amount of the dopamine. Now see in the diagram, these are the kidney, and after the kidney there is the left adrenal gland and the right adrenal gland. Now the first one is the adrenal cortex. This adrenal cortex is the superficial portion of the adrenal gland, and the adrenal medulla, which is the innermost region of the adrenal gland. The adrenal cortex is subdivided into the 3 zones, each of which secrete the different hormones. The outer zone, just deep to the connective tissue capsule, is the zona glomerulosa. Its cells, which are closely packed and arranged in the spherical clusters and arc columns, secreted hormones, which is called as the mineralocorticoids, because they affect in the mineral homeostasis. Second one is the middle one zone is the zona fasciculata, is the widest of the 3 zones and consists of cells arranged in the long straight columns. The cells of the zona fasciculata secretes mainly the glucocorticoids, primarily cortisol, so named because they affect on the glucose homeostasis. The cells of the inner zone of the zona reticularis are arranged in branching cords. They synthesize small amount of wheat androgen steroid hormones that have the muscularizing effects. Now see, the adrenal cortex divided into the 3 zones. First one is the zona glomerulosa, which secrete the mineralocorticoids. Second one is the middle one is the zona fasciculata, which secrete the glucocorticoids. And third one is the zona reticularis, which secrete the androgens. Now first one is the mineralocorticoids. The aldosterone is the major mineralocorticoid. It regulates homeostasis of two mineral ions, namely sodium ions and potassium ions, and helps to adjust blood pressure and the blood volume. Aldosterone also promotes excretion of hydrogen in the urine. This removal of acid from the body can help to prevent the acidosis. The renin-angiotensin aldosterone pathway controls the secretion of aldosterone. The angiotensinogen get converted into the angiotensin 1 with the help of the renin, and this renin get released from the kidney. And this angiotensin 1 get converted into the angiotensin 2 in the help of the angiotensin converting enzyme, which is released from the lungs. And this angiotensin 2 acts on the adrenal gland to stimulate the release of the aldosterone. And this aldosterone acts on the kidney to stimulate the reabsorption of salts and the water. And this angiotensin 2 also act directly on blood vessels which stimulate the vasoconstriction. It means the narrowing. Second one is the glucocorticoids. The glucocorticoids which regulate the metabolism and resistance to stress include the cortisol, corticosterone and the cortisol. Of these three hormones secreted by the zona fasciculata, cortisol is the most abundant, accounting for about 95% of glucocorticoid activity. The glucocorticoid have the following effects: protein breakdown, glucose formation, lipolysis, resistance to stress, anti-inflammatory effect, and the depression of immune response. Now next one is the androgens. In both males and females, the adrenal cortex secretes small amount of weak androgens. The major androgen secreted by the adrenal gland, which is the dihydroepiandrosterone. After the puberty, in males, the androgen testosterone is also released in much greater quantity by the testes. Thus, the amount of androgens secreted by the adrenal gland in males is usually so low that their effects are significant. In females, however, adrenal androgens play important role. They promote libido or the sex drive and are converted into the estrogen by other body tissues. After the menopause, when ovarian secretion of estrogen ceases, all female estrogen come from conversion of adrenal androgens. Adrenal androgens also stimulate growth of axillary and the pubic hair in males, in boys and the girls, and contribute to the prepubertal growth spurt. Next one is the adrenal medulla. This adrenal medulla is the inner region of the adrenal gland that are the adrenal medulla, which is a modified sympathetic ganglion of the autonomic nervous system. It develops from the same embryonic tissue as all other sympathetic ganglia, but each cell which lack the axon from cluster around large blood cells. Rather than releasing a neurotransmitter, the cells of the adrenal medulla secrete the hormones. The hormones producing cells, called as the chromaffin cells, are innervated by sympathetic preganglionic neurons of the ANS. Because the ANS exert their direct control over the chromaffin cells, hormone release can occur very quickly. The two major hormones synthesized by the adrenal medulla, which is the epinephrine and the non-epinephrine, which is also called as the adrenaline and the non-adrenaline respectively. The chromaffin cell of the adrenal medulla secrete an unequal amount of these hormones, about 80% of epinephrine and 20% of the non-epinephrine. The hormones of adrenal medulla intensify sympathetic response that occur in the body parts in the other parts of the body. Now in see in the adrenal gland hormones. These are the cortex. Next one is the medulla. This cortex produces the three zones. First one is the zona glomerulosa, which secrete the mineralocorticoids, which is the aldosterone. Zona fasciculata secrete the glucocorticoids, and zona reticularis, which secrete the androgens. And medulla secrete the catecholamines. It means the epinephrine, non-epinephrine, and the dopamine. This zona, this cortex contains the 80% of the weight, and this medulla contains the 20% of the total adrenal gland weight. Now the next one is the pancreas. The pancreas is both an exocrine as well as the endocrine gland. What is meant by the exocrine? Pancreas produces enzymes that help to digest our food. And the next one is the endocrine, which means the produce the chemical to regulate the blood. A flattened organ that measures about 12.5 to 15 centimeter in length. The pancreas is located in the curve of the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine, and consists of a head, body, and the tail. See, these are the diagram of the pancreas. They contain the head, neck, body, and the tail. Roughly 99% of the exocrine cells of the pancreas are arranged in the cluster, and which is called as the acini. The acini produce the digestive enzyme which flow into the gastrointestinal tract through a network of the duct. Scattered among the exocrine acini are 1 to 2 million tiny clusters of endocrine tissue called as the pancreatic islet or the islet of the Langerhans. Now see, these are the pancreas and these are the pancreatic islet or the islet of the Langerhans. Cell type of the pancreatic islet. Each pancreatic islet includes the four types of the hormone secreting cell. First one is the alpha Urey cell, which constitute about 17% of pancreatic islet cells and secrete the glucagon. Beta or the B cell constitute about 70% of pancreatic islet cells and secrete the insulin. Delta or D cell constitute about 7% of pancreatic islet cells and secrete somatostatin. F cell constitute the remainder of pancreatic islet cell and secrete pancreatic polypeptides. Glucagon raises the blood glucose level and lowers the insulin level. Somatostatin acts in a paracrine manner to inhibit both the insulin and glucagon release from neighboring beta and the alpha cells. It may also act as a circulating hormone to slow absorption of nutrients from the gastrointestinal tract. In addition, somatostatin inhibits the secretion of growth hormone. Pancreatic polypeptide inhibits somatostatin secretion, gallbladder contraction, and secretion of digestive enzyme by the pancreas. Now the next one is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is a small endocrine gland attached to the roof of the third ventricle of the brain at the midline. Part of the epithalamus, it is positioned between the two superior colliculi, has a mass of 0.1 to 0.2 gram and is covered by a capsule formed by the pia mater. The gland consists of masses of neuroglia and the secretory cells called as the pinealocytes. The pineal gland secretes the melatonin, an amine hormone derived from the serotonin. The melatonin appears to contribute to the setting of the body's biological clock, which is controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus. As more melatonin is liberated during the darkness than the light, this hormone is through to promote the sleepiness. In response to visual input from the eyes, the suprachiasmatic chiasmatic nucleus stimulate the sympathetic postganglionic neurons of the superior cervical ganglion, which in turn stimulate the pinealocytes of the pineal gland to secrete the melatonin in a rhythmic pattern, with low level of melatonin secreted during the day and significantly higher levels secreted at the night. During sleep, plasma level of melatonin increases tenfold and then decline to a low level again before the awakening. Small dose of melatonin given orally can induce sleep and reset daily rhythms, which might benefit workers whose shift alternate between the daylight and the nighttime hours. Melatonin also is a potent antioxidant that may provide some protection against damaging the oxygen-free radicals. Melatonin levels are higher in children and decline with age into adulthood, but there is no evidence that change in melatonin secretion correlated with the onset of puberty and the sexual maturation. Next one is the thymus gland. Lobulated gland located deep to the sternum in the thorax. The hormone produced by a thymus, which is the thymosin, thymic humoral factor, thymic factor, and the thymopoietin, promote the maturation of T cells and may retard the aging process. The T cells is a type of the blood cell that destroy the microbes and the foreign materials. Now next is the disorders of the endocrine glands. Disorder of the endocrine system often involve either hyposecretion, inadequate release of hormones, or hypersecretion, which is the excess release of hormones. Now first one is the pituitary gland disorders. In that first one is the dwarfism. It means the hyposecretion of human growth hormone during the growth year slows the bone growth and the epiphyseal plate close before normal height is reached. And this condition is called as the pituitary dwarfism. Next one is the giantism, which is the hypersecretion of human growth hormones during the childhood. They causes the giantism, an abnormal increase in the length of the long bones. The person grows to be very tall, but body proportion are about normal. Next one is the acromegaly, which is a hypersecretion of human growth hormone during the adulthood, which is the acromegaly. The bones of the hands, feet, cheeks, and the jaw thickens and other tissue get enlarged. Next one is the diabetes insipidus. The most common abnormality associated with the dysfunction of the posterior pituitary is diabetes insipidus. The disorder is due to defects in the antidiuretic hormones receptor or an inability to secrete the antidiuretic hormones. Neurogenic diabetes insipidus results from hyposecretion of antidiuretic hormones, usually caused by a brain tumor, head trauma, or brain surgery that damage the posterior pituitary or the hypothalamus. Now second one is the thyroid gland disorder. First one is the mixed edema. Hypothyroidism during the adult year produces the mixed edema, which occurs about 5 times more often in females than in males. A hallmark of this disorder is edema that causes the facial tissue to swell and look puffy. A person with mixed edema has a slow heart rate, low body temperature, sensitivity to cold, dry hair and skin, muscular weakness, general lethargy, and tendency to gain weight easily. Now the Graves' disease. The most common form of the hypothyroidism is the Graves' disease, which also occurs 7 to 10 times more often in females than in males, usually before the age of the 40. Graves' disease is an autoimmune disorder in which the person produces antibodies that mimic the action of thyroid stimulating hormones. The antibodies continually stimulate the thyroid gland to grow and produce the thyroid hormones. Third one is the disorder of the parathyroid gland. They causes the hyperparathyroidism, and second one is the hypoparathyroidism. In the hyperparathyroidism, they cause the fatigue, muscular weakness, painful joints, alter the mental function, depression, weight loss, bone weakening, increase the parathyroid hormone secretion, overstimulate the osteoclast. And in the hypoparathyroidism, they causes the muscle cramp, seizures, again decrease the parathyroid hormone secretion, reduces the osteoclast activity and diminishing the blood calcium ion concentration. Fourth one is the adrenal gland disorder. First one is the Cushing syndrome. Hypersecretion of cortisol by the adrenal cortex produces the Cushing syndrome. They cause the included tumor of the adrenal gland that secrete the cortisol, or tumor elsewhere that secrete adrenocorticotropic hormones, which in turn stimulate the excessive secretion of cortisol. The condition is characterized by breakdown of muscle protein and redistribution of the body. Fat resulting in spindly arms and legs accompanied by a rounded moon face, buffalo hump on the back and pendulous abdomen. Facial skin is flushed and the skin covering the abdomen develops the stretch mark. The person also worries easily and wound healing is poor. The elevated level of cortisol causes the hyperglycemia, osteoporosis, weakness, hypertension, increase the susceptibility to infection, decrease the resistance to stress and the mood swings. People who need long-term glucocorticoid therapy, for instance, to prevent the rejection of a transplanted organ, may develop a Cushingoid appearance. Second one is the Addison's disease. Hyposecretion of glucocorticoid and the aldosterone cause the Addison's disease. The majority of cases are autoimmune disorders in which antibodies cause the adrenal cortex destruction or blocking binding of the ACTH to its receptor. Pathogens such as the bacterium that cause the tuberculosis also may trigger the adrenal cortex destruction. Next one is the pheochromocytomas. Usually big in tumor that chromaffin cell of the adrenal medulla called the pheochromocytomas cause the hypersecretion of the epinephrine and the non-epinephrine. The result is a prolonged version of fight or flight response, rapid heart rate, high blood pressure, high level of glucose in blood and urine, an elevated basal metabolic rate, flush the face, nervousness, sweating, and decrease the gastrointestinal motility. Next one is the pancreatic islet disorder. In that, the first one is the diabetes mellitus, which is the most common endocrine disorder. There are the two types of the diabetes mellitus. First one is the type 1 and the second one is the type 2. In that, the type 1 pancreas failed to produce the insulin and type 2 cell failed to respond the insulin properly.
Result is the endocrine system with the help of model, chart and specimen was studied.
And bank is the thank you.